Hello, everyone, and welcome to Festive Tech Calendar session here. We have Kasun and myself here, Cloud Marathoner, also Elhan, to record another session for you guys to make it ready so you can watch it during your festive holiday period. So, Kasun, what we are going to present this time?
Thank you for everyone. So I'm so glad I also this time also I can do the session with Elkhan on Festive Tech Calendar. So today we are going to talk about how we can identify threats in AKS with using Falco and Sentinel and cool stuff. So yeah.
Nice, nice. And if you didn't saw that already, actually, Kasun got some scarves from Santa. You see, there's some red scarves behind him, hanging on the on the shelf. So these are small presents from Santa. So he started to celebrate the, holidays
Yeah.
a bit earlier than me. I don't have those scarves yet. So, so that's really cool. All right. So that's it. Thank you, everyone, watching this session. We'll try to make it a bit of a fun, and I hope we are all going to enjoy that. So let's get started. Okay, so before jumping into the session, let's see, what type of problems we are going to solve in a festive way. And namely, we'll look into explaining the issues Kubernetes is built to solve, why Kubernetes is important for Santa's enterprise, and why it is so in demand, why it is technically also in demand. So speaking of that, let's start with the first one. So, Kasun, what is Kubernetes and why it is, what is built for?
So Kubernetes is a open source container orchestration platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is built for to address the issues that we are when we are running large scale container environments, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about like thousands or 100,000, like thousands or 100,000 containers running in large platforms, like
Right.
very complex systems, right? Running like hundreds or 200 independent services, right? So
Right.
container services. So managing them using Docker itself is not practical, like scaling those kind of things. So to make it more easy, Kubernetes come to picture. So it's like a basically orchestrator, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so we can give like a desired state that we need for our application. Then Kubernetes will make sure that this state will be maintained, right? So
Right.
basically, it is resolving many problems like scaling, then high availability, and those kind of things. So if you want to scale your application based on your demand and request, so you can do it to the Kubernetes, and it will make your application high available because in Kubernetes you can run multiple many number of replicas to make it high
Yes.
available. Yeah.
Highly available. Yeah. Yes. Just to mention what Kasun kind of said, I'll just sum it up. So first is scaling, right? If you have many workloads that you wanna scale seamlessly, that's where Kubernetes shine. Second is orchestration part of it, as was mentioned, so that you can orchestrate the different communication resources and tasks between the different workloads that are scaling based on demand. And finally, abstraction of resources. It's once you have abstraction of resources, and you don't worry about the actual underlying resource place, it can do those works just by focusing on the tasks that it needs to perform. Or if we translate to that in Santa's enterprise, if you
Yeah.
have elves who are preparing the gifts for all the kids and people around the world, they don't have to worry about how many boxes left, how many gift wraps are there. What they want to focus is just on you, on your customers, to make sure that your experience with that gift, with that present, is it's going to be on a high level, so to speak. All right, great. So next question here, next, I would say thing that enterprise cloud challenge of Santa's is solving is why Kubernetes is important for Santa's enterprise. I can take this question and say that Mostly it's because of scalability of Kubernetes, and it's natively ready to scale production of toys, gifts, any workloads that you have in your enterprise to make the things go smooth. That's where it shines, and that's the importance of having Kubernetes type of tool inside this enterprise. And then we have next question here, why it is so in demand? So Kasun, why this Kubernetes so in demand?
Yeah, so because it is reducing many deployment complexities. So for example, if the Santa got a lot of um, demand, right, then they will deploy many applications, right, for their deployment process. So but deploying these application and changes in a rapid way will be complex. So Kubernetes with CI/CD pipelines, you can reduce the complexity of deploying these applications, right?
Yes, yes.
Then
So
it will help
mhm,
to deploy the presence and send those presence and everything much more
yeah.
easily and
So to translate that, what I understood is that when you have just a couple of even dozens of VMs, to managing them may not be such a big issue. But when you are talking about thousands of different instances that you need to manage in order to orchestrate the work and uh, make sure that your production lines are going smooth and you can deliver on time, that's where it Kubernetes needs to bring in, because there's less human intervention and more of an automation that will take care of the demand. That's where Kubernetes shine. And
yeah.
plus, it's not just that part, right? You can still automate the VMs, but it's also about how resource intensive is your enterprises. So you want to make sure you are very resourceful with each CPU, each gig of RAM that you use for your enterprise, and you can scale it down. Whenever you don't have such a high demand, so you keep your cost in check. All right, that's it. Let's look at the next uh, dive into our main session. I'm not going to read it through. You will learn a lot of different things from this session, but the biggest part is going to be the how you can uh, use real-time threat detection within your pipeline by this great open source tool called Falco, and how it integrates those threats with Azure Sentinel and with some other tools, being honest, not just Azure Sentinel, where you can deliver those suspicious alerts and messages and integrate the enterprise in a way that you are ready to respond to incidents in no time. Sorry. Okay, let's continue from here. Next, we have AKS for the rescue. So, first point, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Yep.
So sure. So how we can simplify deployments and management of a Kubernetes, right? So yeah. So deploying Kubernetes can be very challenging if you are if you are deploying Kubernetes from the scratch, right? It has a lot of components on it, right? So what AKS do is simply it's a managed service offering from Azure. So AKS has the control plane managed component. So Azure will take care of the control plane of the Kubernetes, right? And as
Mm-hmm.
a customers, we have to think about our application and the control plane, right? So then other component like security networking and those kind of things.
Awesome. Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about the managing the much complex control plane, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you will get less responsibilities in terms of deploying, and it can be deployed within minutes in Azure Portal or CLI or Bicep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There are different ways how you can deploy AKS, which is Azure Kubernetes Service. And as Custom mentioned, it's a managed service. We don't have to worry too much about running and managing it. We don't have to worry about control plane, which is managed by Azure for us. and it comes with lots of enterprise integration points. And it's basically easy to start and get going in minutes rather than setting up, all your VM infrastructure and stuff like that to run the Kubernetes, which is awesome. So next here with AKS for the rescue, or why it is used, it's integrating the security and governance. So in this case, as you know, Azure policies are here to help. You can deploy your policies where you can put the specific rules, how you want to manage configuration components of each service and each workload that you want to run within your Kubernetes service. That's very powerful tool, enterprise ready. So that there are many more things into that, but that Azure policy makes the life so much easier. Then we have enterprise ready observability. So what's your take on that, Kasun?
Yeah, so enterprise ready observability means basically in Azure there are a lot of observability tools are available, right? So AKS has their own integration to this. For example, Azure Content Insight, right? So Content Insight is observability that connect and see how the containers are working, those kind of things. And additionally, AKS can be configured with Azure Monitor Workspace, which is a managed service from most popular open source monitoring tool for Kubernetes, Prometheus. So Azure has their managed service. And in Prometheus, we are always talking about Grafana. So Azure has their own managed service for Grafana as well. So AKS can easily integrate with those two tools because those are built for Kubernetes monitoring, right? So and can get more insight and high in detail metrics related to your workloads and your cluster, right? And additionally, you can integrate with any other monitoring platform like non-Azure platforms as well, like Datadog or Dynatrace or New Relic. So they have their own implementations that you can integrate with AKS as well.
Yeah, that's really very good points. The enterprise ready observability is basically a built-in that you can configure for the AKS. The next one here is streamlined storage integration. There are different storage types in Azure, as you know, and you can easily integrate storage solutions such as Azure Disks, regular storage account like blob types and file shares to work with your AKS instance. That makes it very beautiful and easy to go with. That said, let's move to the next point here in our presentation. So what are the security challenges with AKS? So if you have worked for some time in production with AKS, you would know that there are certain things that your security team and cybersecurity team can come back to you and ask a lot of questions. And some of them present the challenges. So some of the challenges are listed here on our slide. So we'll go through them very quickly so that you can be aware about those security challenges, and then we'll come up with one of the ways how you can tackle it, right? One of the solutions that we'll present and how Santa wants to move forward with that. So that said, first one here is pod to pod or pod to node traffic, which is not restricted. So that's kind of known issue, and this will always come up on your way. So there is a way how to tackle that. We are not going to say how, but stay, on this recording to hear how it is. Next one is container image supply chain risks, which may sound very familiar or very important nowadays because there are different vulnerabilities that can be injected in your system. So one of them is that if you are sourcing your container images from sources which are not certified or you don't have this secure communication, then you can expose yourself and your containers and your system into vulnerabilities that are unknown to you, right? So you just can open a kind of a can of worms because you don't know what's inside. So you need to make sure that one of the ways is that to avoid that is to make sure that you get your container images from a secure source that you trust, and you know that there's no issues there. Then we have these path security controls not enforced. So that's another important security challenge in AKS. And security context there needs to be applied, because path privileges introduce those challenges that needs to be dealt with. So you'll learn more
Yeah.
about that, right? And finally, observability blind spots. So as you know, observability is very important once you have your production system, or even when you are learning about the system, how to integrate the observability into that. And we will look into tools and how you want to make sure that you don't miss some audit and observability metrics that require to be part of your solution. So how it could be added. So if you are interested to learn about this and how to deal with these challenges, stay on this session. So let's dive into that. Anything else, maybe Kasun, you would like to add?
Yeah, so a little bit of a pod security control. So
Yes.
because so by usually when you run containers in Kubernetes, those pods are running the pod inside the pods, the containers are running in root as a root user,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's
Yes.
like a privileged user, right? So that means if someone gaining access to that container, that he can do many things within the container. So then you need to understand, you need to restrict those things, like by running the container with the specific users and allowing specific permissions, those kind of things. And security context, restricting unwanted security context like HPC access, that means host process access or host network access, those kind of things are privileged things. And
Mm-hmm.
running as privileged containers should be restricted in Kubernetes pods, right? And as well as uh, allowed to write to the root file system also restricted. Those are some few security contexts you need to be aware, but there are many things
Yes.
you can do on that time.
That's very good points into that. And if while listening or watching this session, if you have some more kind of concerns or use cases that you want to bring, please put them in the chat. We'll be very interested to hear from you and then respond as time permits. Great. So let's move forward with, okay, what's the one of the possible solutions that you can integrate and spare to be open source? So let's look what we have. So one of the ways is you can overcome some of those challenges is by using this some open source tooling called Falco, right? And it comes with many different propositions to help us. So you see some of them here on the slide. There are like 5 points here, but let's start with the first one. So real-time runtime for threat detection. So how it's possible and why it's important, Kasun? Can you describe?
Yeah, yeah. So many people will overlook the runtime protection. So that means people think that when you are running in Kubernetes, you are safe and secure, right? Means
Mm-hmm.
when you deploy, but it's not. So you have to be very aware of what's happening and what the process are doing in the Kubernetes, like in the container, right? So that's why we need a runtime threat detection tool, right? So that's why Falco is very very mature tool for that, right? Because Falco use eBPF to listen to the system events, kernel events, right? Then it can analyze those events and detect any um, abnormalities or anything that are not supposed to do, right? So that is based on the rules that we configured with Falco, right? So it will go and analyze the rule and whether find this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like accessing kernel level events and getting information from there, right? So that means any
Yes.
pods that are running in Kubernetes has to deal with the kernel, right? So to do anything. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and then we'll talk more about that highly customizable rules
Yeah.
in this slide. Next one is detecting the attacks inside running containers. So Falco is very good for that, and it's basically customized for this purpose. It can provide runtime security across hosts, containers, Kubernetes, and cloud environments to detect those attacks. Next, we have Falco also covers the gap other tools are missing. So what are those gaps? Can you speak about that, Kusun?
Yeah, so many others, some observability tools doesn't take a look at in uh, audit events, right? Security
Mm-hmm.
audit events and kernel events, right? So that's why the Falco will be like a tool on to that. So to
Right.
gap to minimize the gap. So Falco can do much more in-depth. Uh, it can access the uh, in-depth processes in the Linux kernel and
Right.
get the information. So, but some other tools cannot do it, right? So because
Mm-hmm.
of that, they don't have the visibility of what's happening on the background, right?
Yes. Yeah, and as you mentioned, like this capability of Falco being able to listen on a kernel level to kernel events make it really a strong candidate
Yeah,
that can protect and uh, bring those important gaps resolved for the
yeah.
enterprises. Yes, and next we have highly customizable rules that are coming with Falco. So what are those rules, and how they name it, and what's the purpose there? Can you also speak about that?
Yeah, so Falco use a ruling language called Rego. Rego is it's not specifically for Falco. There are some other cloud native
Mm-hmm.
tools using Rego like OPA, Open Policy Agent, and gatekeepers. They also use Rego language.
Right.
So it is like a querying language to get information, right? So then based on our requirement, we can build our own Rego query, Rego rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Falco, then Falco will evaluate these rules and trigger events based on the rule, right? So so that means we can build our own custom rules. So Falco already provide a lot of inbuilt rules, but
Mm-hmm.
if you have any use case that is not covered within that rule set, then you can build your own rule set or rules based on your own use cases, right? So it's
Right.
more customizable and powerful in the sense.
Great, great. So basically, we can use the Rego in order to create our own uh, detection rules for abnormal
Detection rules, yeah.
attacks, and that's kind of a very bright spot where it is coming very handy, so to speak. Yep. And finally, it comes with easy integration with CM and alerts, and that's part of the Falco's functionalities. It comes with Sidekick that has many integration points to send messages to different tools, and it could be also Azure native tools like Sentinel, right, where it can receive those messages that are coming from the pod that are, again, you configure your rules that are setting those abnormal attacks or incident detection kind of uh, information back to your CM or any other tool, so that your observability team or people who are watching after your uh, workloads that are running in AKS can be on top of the game and detect any abnormal issues way ahead before they become a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you would like to add, or we are good to
Yeah.
switch to
So
the diagram?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So as Ilkhan mentioned, Falco has a separate tool called Falco Sidekick. So
Mm-hmm.
Sidekick is the way of diffusing Falco events and send it to other sources. Like it can be webhooks, for example,
Right.
webhooks. Then they have some Azure native tools like Azure Event Hubs, right? So you can send to Event Hub, then you can use the Event Hub for other processing and those kind of thing. And it is not, it has a wide range of support like chat services like Slack and other services,
Nice.
and AWS and other cloud providers. They support
Mm-hmm.
many integrations. So that's the powerful of open source Falco. So yeah, that is really
Nice.
good. Yeah.
Yep. It's a really very powerful tool indeed. Next, let's look at some use case scenario where we can use this Falco with integration of AKS and other tools. So here we have one of the sample diagrams where it could be used. Of course, you can, based on your use cases, you can add more components or reduce that depending on what you're trying to achieve. But in this case, we have this diagram, and where you can see that we have this Kubernetes environment. It can be AKS or any other environment that you have. And within that environment, as you see, we have Falco integrated into the Kubernetes, and this is the Falco sidekick that we just talked about, that's sending those integration messages. So in this architecture, what we see is that we have Falco, which is observing the system calls and other runtime events, such as audit logs, and then it posts those messages picked up by a logic app, right, through through the HTTP webhooks that Kasun just mentioned about, and then those things are picked up as data by Sentinel log analytic workspace, which is basically a source of the information where it's get gathered, and then of course Sentinel is analyzing those information, and then that's where your detection and incident response rules can trigger and bring the early detection of the issues in your system. Is there some other parts that you also want to mention, Kasun, about this diagram?
Yeah, no, basically you explained a lot. So basically what happened is from logic app to send to Sentinel. So logic app cannot, Sentinel is based on Azure Logantic workspace. So what logic app's
Mm-hmm.
doing is when the HTTP post request comes from Falco Sidekick, it will talk to the log analytics data collection API and uh, write those events as a custom table. So you can see Falco logs underscore CL means custom table that we created in log analytics workspace. So it's a specific table that we use for our own purpose in log analytics workspace. So then the
Awesome. Yeah,
Sentinel
great.
can use that log analytics workspace to query the detection rules, analytical rules.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. All right. So next, we are going to have a demo, so you can watch the demo part of it, and then we'll be back.
Previously, we have discussed about how we can use AKS, Sentinel, and Falco open source tool to detect runtime security in AKS cluster and containers, right? So this demo will show you how we can implement this solution and identify any malicious activities around your containers and the cluster. So then we can identify them through Falco and create incident in Azure Sentinel, which is a SIEM tool, cloud SIEM tool. So your security team or security analysis can take a necessary action against these type of attacks. Okay, so as you can see in this window, you can see the incidents are already there, but let's first go into the go in and discuss how we can deploy this solution to Azure. Right, so to make it much more easy, I already prepared the code and demo code that need for this demo. Right, so let's me go through what are we going to deploy. So we are going to deploy Falco in the AKS managed service. Then we are using managed Azure Kubernetes service as the platform for our AK Kubernetes setup. Then we are using Azure Logic App, which is a webhook, which receive Falco alerts through Falco Sidekick. Then we are using this Logic App to write those alerts to log analytic workspace, so which is a centralized logging and monitoring tool in Azure. So we will create a custom table for Falco. Then we will use Azure Sentinel with Azure log analytic workspace to query the logs and identify any detect any malicious activities, right? So in this readme you can find this architecture diagram, right? So here I previously also shown in the presentation, and in the here you can find all the Kubernetes YAML files, then bicep modules to deploy clusters, and the script to deploy everything, right? So there are PowerShell script as well as the bash script. So simply what you need to do is you need to run this bash.sh. If you're using bash, then it will go and deploy everything for you. This include installing Falco, then adding Falco rules, as well as importing Sentinel rules to Sentinel to detect Falco alerts, and as well as a dashboard in Sentinel to monitor the Falco alerts, right? So let's jump into the demo and see how it is going to work. So for this, I already provisioned everything into my subscription. So you can see I have the Kubernetes cluster running, up and running, right? So in here you can see the Kubernetes cluster is in a running state, right? Now you can see the workloads are provisioned into the Falco namespace in the Kubernetes cluster. So if I filter it for the Falco, then you can see the Falco Sidekick and other Falco components like Falco daemon set is deployed into the cluster, right? So basically everything is already set up, right? Then we will see how the Falco send notifications into the Falco Sidekick, right? So Falco Sidekick also integrated with Falco, right? So if you open the Falco and if you see the live logs, right, then you can see Falco is sending different notifications based on the rules that we configured in Falco. So Falco has a very customizable way of deploying rules to the Falco. We use Rego, as we mentioned previously, to build your custom rules. Okay, in here now you can see that different alerts are generated, right? So you can see more warning, right? Then Kubernetes secret is accessed. So some pod try to access Kubernetes secret. So it will, because of that, it will generate those alerts, right? So then these alerts will be sent to the Falco Sidekick, right? Which has many integrations, right? If you search for Falco Sidekick, right? Then if you go to the GitHub page of the Falco Sidekick, in the outputs you can find many options available, such as if you are using different chat platforms like Slack, Teams, and any other chat platforms, then you can send these alerts notification to those. Then metrics and observability platform like Datadog, then Dynatrace, likewise. Then analytic platforms, then logging platforms, as well as storage, serverless, right? Then others like queues, right? Basically, if you're working with Azure, you have Azure Event Hubs. You can send the these notification to Azure Event Hub for further processing, right? Then databases, email, web, and SIEMs as well. But Falco Sidekick doesn't support Azure Sentinel by default. Because of that, we can use either webhook or Azure Event Hubs. So in this demo, I'm using webhook. So I will create a logic cap with a webhook trigger. So then I already configured the Falco Sidekick to send those notification to that webhook link. Then the logic cap will pick it up from there, right? So let's take a look at the logic cap, right? So what it actually doing, right? So if you go to the logic cap, right, then the logic cap designer, right, you can see it's a very simple one, nothing complicated, right? But you can add many additional steps to do some cleanups or do additional processing of the notification data that is coming from the webhook, right? So basically what will happen is the webhook listen to the Falco Sidekick, then whatever the data that is coming from this Falco Sidekick, it will use the send data task in the logic cap to write the entire body of the request to the custom log analytics table in the log analytics workspace, right? So yeah, that's very basic. So this will, whatever the notification comes, it will go and write to the log analytics workspace in the which Sentinel use, right? So here you can see custom log table name. So this table will be created automatically. If it is not there, then write the notification to the those table, right? So here you can see in the overview run history. It is running very frequently because I'm getting a lot of notifications from Falco Sidekick. It's therefore it is always running. Okay, then let's go and check the log analytics workspace, right? So let's go to the resource group. Then if I go to the log analytics workspace, then if I check the logs, then if I run a web query for Falco log CL, that is our custom log analytics table, right? So CL, if you're creating custom tables in log analytics workspace, it's end with the underscore CL to identify it as a custom table, right? So if I run my table without any filtrations, right, you can see many alerts notifications are stored in here, right? So here you can find many information like tenant ID, then what is the rule name, Kubernetes secret access, priority warning, then which host name is trying to access it, which pod is this is trying to access. So likewise, there are many informations available in this table, right? So it is very important for you to identify which system, which pod is trying to do these things and what's happening in there, right? So you can find many things, right? So yeah, there are a lot of options are available, so you can do many filtrations if you like to do, right? Now we have the notifications in the log analytics workspace. Next step is using Sentinel to identify and query these log analytics workspace and do an analysis to identify these things, right? So for that, in Sentinel we have analytical queries. Let's take a look at what are these analytical queries means, right? So if you go to the Sentinel, now Sentinel is not in there are many features of the Sentinel is now moved to Microsoft Defender, right? So if you are at the time of this watching, you may see that many features are not available in Azure Portal anymore. Most of them are moved to the Microsoft Defender for centralized platform for security, right? So if you go to the Sentinel section in the Azure Defender, right, then you can find analytical queries under the configurations, right? So here you can find all the analytical queries I have created, right? So if you run the bash script, these analytical queries are automatically imported to the Sentinel, right? So you don't have to worry about it. But these analytical queries are basically KQL queries, so which will enabled and scheduled run happening on the against the Logantic workspace, right? So you can see it is scheduled, it is running on a scheduled basis. So if I click one of these rules, right, then you can click edit the rule. Then you can see the name of the rule, then the description, severity, then you can add different Mitra attacks types, right? Then if you go to the rule logic, you can see it is a basically KQL query, right? So it will query the Falco logs underscore CL custom table, and it will do some filtrations and logics to identify the specific rule, if specific type of rules or the events that you need, right? Then you can do additional entity mappings. These things I didn't do, but yeah, you can do it. This is schedule query, so it will run every 10 minutes and it will look up for 10 minutes data as well. So these values can be configurable based on your requirement, right? The start time is automatically, so it's running automatically. So the alert threshold has to be is greater than or whatever the threshold we like, right? So if you want to reduce the number of false positives, right? So then you can increase the number you need, right? Then incident settings, then alert grouping, if you want to do, then you can do it. Then the anomaly rules, automation rules can be configured, right? Then finally you can review and create. So you can see that basically it is a KQL queries for different type of alerts to identify those malicious activities. So yeah, so these are the analytical rules. So based on these analytical rules, so I have shown you that these analytical rules are running on every 10 minutes. So when every time it is run, if it is detects something, then it will create incidents, right? So the incidents are in the Microsoft Defender, then investigation and response, then under the incident and alerts, you can see the incidents, right? So if you click one of these incidents, right, then you can dive deep into the incident and see what is the incident rule name that incident is triggered. Then the query data also can be see what type of data that is queried, and you can see the input information that is gathered from the analytical query, right? So these are the information for them. Then additionally you can see, you can do any comments, then you can manage the alerts. So if you want to restore it in progress or assign it to someone in your organization, right? So yeah, those things can be configured here. Then you can see the which incident alert it will trigger. So yeah, so it's a good thing for you to identify these things. So if something goes wrong and incidents like runtime incident happen, like someone try to spin up a bash shell in a container, so you can identify those type of things through the Falco, right? So please go through the Falco values file for more information. So here, because I have added some custom rules for Falco, so yeah, it depends on your requirements, so you can build your own Falco queries based on your requirements. And additionally, I have created another very cool workbook for you. So in the Sentinel, under the threat management, under the workbooks, you can find the workbook, Falco security dashboard. So if you view the workbook, you can see the you have to select the subscription, apply, then you have to select the logantic workspace. Then here you can easily see how many alerts are generated, how many pods are affected, and there's a graph based on the priority of the alert, right? Then what pods have the most alerts, so what are the top 10 triggered rules. Then you can see the recent security events also based on the Falco outputs and notifications, right? So yeah, this can be also the top 10 contents by alert count, which content is generating more alerts. So yeah, so this is a very basic dashboard, but it can be customized. This also included in the GitHub repository, so you can take a look at on this. Yeah, so that's all for this quick demo, but please feel free to go through the GitHub repository, and yeah, it includes all the infrastructure deployment through Bicep and deploying the Falco and everything. So I think you have gained some information about how you are going to deploy Falco, like open source tool like Falco, and in combine with SIEM and AKS to get in-depth idea about your Kubernetes runtime security. So I hope everyone learned. So let's continue to the presentation.
All right, welcome back here to the takeaways. We have nice presentation. Thank you putting that all together, Kasun. And you may come up with some questions, right, while watching that demo. And we are interested to hear back from you. So if you have any questions, it's that demo itself is in the GitHub repo, so you can look into the code and setup. But we are more interested to hear about your feedback, so let us know. I hope you got some takeaways from this, demo. But if you count just some few of them, what would be your takeaways, Kasun?
Yeah. So few of takeaways from me is actually how we can build a great security tool using multiple services and the open source, combining both, right? So
Right.
there are a lot of tools available in open source that we can use to build very good security tools as well as other ways, right? So always think about other tools and combine them together to build a solution. So
Yes. So if you look at that, takeaways, so there are like three of them. Just first one is, as Kasum mentioned, securing runtime with Kubernetes containers, right? That's where we saw that in action. Then we saw a good way to integrate the Falco, as it was mentioned. It's an open source tool to make your solution more resourceful and cloud native. And finally, we saw that how you can create your own custom security rules using that sidekick, right? That's the no, it was not. So basically, you can use the Falco specific rules to customize your security rules to detect and react to those incidents that you wanna catch beforehand, so to speak, right?
Yeah, and
mhm.
additionally, what we can do is we can monitor and threat detection is identify threat detection is a very good. So we can do
Yes.
runtime detection. So it is also a takeaway that we can take, right? So always think about runtime security as well. So because people will overlook runtime security. So yeah, but it's
Yes.
always important. So because you should have some type of defense in depth in your environment side. So you should have different layers to identify different threats, right? So if something was bypassed, then there should be another layer of uh, layers to
Detection.
identify the
Yeah.
detection.
Yes, right. So yeah, it's if you remember that from cloud perspective, right? Maybe your cloud fundamental that you first learn about there's always layers of security that you want to have in place. It's also part of the security. So this is one of the layers where you introduce to make sure that bad guys or malicious actors cannot just, uh, once they are in your system, in your AKS or Kubernetes, they can just move laterally and access any resource there by stealing the secrets or damaging the communication, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Let's go to some questions, right? Some festive questions. And let's see. So there are like three questions. We are not showing it here just to make it a bit more fun. So first question is, what Santa would be doing if there is no AKS to power his sleigh to move forward? So let's ask this question to Kasun. If you remember, what Santa would be doing if there is
Yeah.
no AKS to power?
Yeah, so then we had to use different less powerful legacy DS,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
right? Which
yeah,
can slow down the deployment and everything. So no one will be happy, right? So yeah,
yeah. That's what you would end up with, right? That's what you would
yeah,
end. So if you remove the automation and power of AKS, you have to rely on legacy. That's what it is, and it's a bit painful. Now, next question is, can we use Falco to detect thief who is stealing Santa's present? This is, yeah, very critical question. Can we use Falco to detect a thief
yeah,
who is stealing
definitely.
the Santa?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
so we
How?
can use so if the Santa is delivering some present from Santa's village to a different person, in between someone tries to interfere it and steal the gifts, then Falco can detect that's one. So because it's a runtime thing, right? So if
Yeah.
someone's tried to access some information and where the person is their location, then Falco can identify it. Yeah.
And if I can associate here, can we think about Falco security open source tool more like a security camera, right? That's
Yeah, it's like a
everywhere
security camera.
and it's
It's
kind of
looking
watching,
like
right? So
over.
if
Yeah,
it detects there is some movement or some suspicious person which is not part
yeah,
of your family is grabbing those boxes of gift, it will send the messages, right? It will make
yeah,
the
yeah.
alert. Yes, okay, cool. So that's one of the ways. And let's go with the final question here. If Santa's workshop had a Kubernetes cluster with Falco configuration, would the elves be considered security analysts? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
With if there are elves that which has security skills, then
Mm-hmm.
they can overlook these malicious attacks. Like so, then like they
Yeah.
can view they can see the literal movements like within the
Yes.
process, so they can interfere and shut down those literal movements and actions. So yeah. So
Yes.
there are some few elves who watch the entire process, right? So yeah,
Right. So, yeah, I agree. So, this elves with those skills would be superheroes to identify those early malicious attacks that Kasun mentioned, and they will enable this detection of lateral movements early in the game by preventing those cybersecurity disasters. So, there's a lot
yeah,
of good stuff there. Again, thank you everyone for watching our session today. If you have any questions, post those comments and we'll get back to you. And check our code and demos of the session. Enjoy the rest of your holidays. Have a great one. And thank you, Kasun, for being here on the session.
Yeah, sure.